Hello again, family. This is day 20 of our Reading Through the Bible Together in a Year series. Today we're covering Exodus chapters 12, starting in verse 29, through chapter 15, ending in verse 21. That's hard to remember those things. But where we have pulled up to so far is that we've had the first 9 plagues over Egypt. I'm not going to recount them for you because it will go poorly. But what we started into at the very end of yesterday's reading was the 10th plague, which is the death of the firstborn over Egypt. And in that, we talked about, or I guess we read the beginning of the Passover instructions about the lamb that's supposed to be taken without a blemish for a week, and then it's supposed to be roasted completely, not boiled, and it's supposed to be eaten, and the unleavened cakes, because you're supposed to have your sandals on and your loins girded up, and you're just supposed to be ready to go. So this is where we actually finish out the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn. Let's get into it. And in the middle of the night, the Lord sent death on every first male child in the land of Egypt, from the child of Pharaoh on his seat of power to the child of the prisoner in the prison, and the first births of all the cattle. Then Pharaoh got up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and a great cry went up from Egypt, for there was not a house where someone was not dead. And he sent for Moshe and Aaron by night and said, "Get up and go out from among my people, you and the children of Israel. Go and give worship to the Lord as you have said. And take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and give me your blessing." And the Egyptians were forcing the people on to get them out of the land quickly, for they said, "We are all dead men." And the people took their bread paste before it was leavened, putting their basins and their clothing on their backs. And the children of Israel had done as Moshe had said, and they got from the Egyptians ornaments of silver and of gold and of clothing. And the Lord had given the people grace in the eyes of the Egyptians, so that they gave them whatever was requested. So they took away all the goods from the Egyptians. And the children of Israel made the journey from Ramses to Sukkot. There were about 600,000 men on foot, as well as children. And a mixed band of people went with them, and flocks and herds in great numbers. And they made unleavened cakes from the paste which they had taken out of Egypt. It was not leavened, for they had been sent out of Egypt so quickly that they had no time to make any food ready. Now the children of Israel had been living in Egypt for 430 years. And at the end of 430 years, to the very day, all the armies of the Lord went out of the land of Egypt. It is a watch night before the Lord, who took them out of the land of Egypt. This same night is a watch night to the Lord for all the children of Israel, through all their generations. And the Lord said to Moshe and Aaron, "This is the law of the Passover. No man who is not an Israelite is to take of it. But every man's servant whom he has got for money may take of it when he has had circumcision. A man from a strange country living among you, and a servant working for payment, may not take part in it. It is to be taken in one house. Not a bit of the flesh is to be taken out of the house, and no bone of it may be broken. All Israel is to keep the feast. And if the man from another country is living with you, and has a desire to keep the Passover to the Lord, let all the males of his family undergo circumcision, and then let him come near and keep it. For he will then be as one of your people, but no one without circumcision may keep it. The law is the same for him who is an Israelite by birth, and for the man from a strange country who is living with you." So the children of Israel did as the Lord gave orders to Moshe and Aaron, and on that very day the Lord took the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. And the Lord said to Moshe, "Let the first male child of every mother among the children of Israel be kept holy for me, even the first male birth among man or beast, for it is mine." And Moshe said to the people, "Let this day on which you came out of Egypt, out of your prison house, be kept forever in memory. For by the strength of his hand the Lord has taken you out from this place. Let no leavened bread be used. On this day, in the month of Aviv, you are going out. And it will be that, when the Lord takes you into the land of the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, the land which he made an oath to your fathers that he would give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you will do this act of worship in this month. For 7 days let your food be unleavened cakes, and on the 7th day there is to be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened cakes are to be your food through all the 7 days. Let no leavened bread be seen among you, or any leaven in any part of your land. And you will say to your son in that day, 'It is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt.' And this will be for a sign to you on your hand and for a mark on your brow, so that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord took you out of Egypt. So let this order be kept at the right time from year to year. And when the Lord takes you into the land of Canaan, as he made his oath to you and to your fathers, and gives it to you, you are to put on one side for the Lord every mother's first male child and the first fruit of her body, and the first young one of every beast, every male is holy to the Lord. And for the young of a donkey you may give a lamb in payment, or if you will not make payment for it, its neck is to be broken. But for all the first sons among your children let payment be made. And when your son says to you in time to come, "What is the reason for this?" say to him, "By the strength of his hand the Lord took us out of Egypt, out of the prison house. And when Pharaoh made his heart hard and would not let us go, the Lord sent death on all the first sons in Egypt, of man and of beast, and so every first male who comes to birth is offered to the Lord. But for all the first of my sons I give a price. And this will be a sign on your hand and for a mark on your brow, for by the strength of his hand the Lord took us out of Egypt." Now after Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not take them through the land of the Philistines, though that was near, for God said, "If the people see war, they may have a change of heart and go back to Egypt." But God took the people round by the wasteland near the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up in fighting order out of the land of Egypt. And Moshe took the bones of Yosef with him, for Yosef had made the children of Israel take an oath, saying, "God will certainly keep you in mind, and you are to take my bones away with you." Then they went on their journey from Sukkot, and put up their tents in Etam at the edge of the wasteland. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud, guiding them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they were able to go on day and night. The pillar of cloud went ever before them by day, and the pillar of fire by night. And the Lord said to Moshe, "Give orders to the children of Israel to go back and put up their tents before Pihachirot, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal Zephon, opposite to which you are to put up your tents by the sea. And Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are wandering without direction. They are shut in by the wasteland. And I will make Pharaoh's heart hard, and he will come after them, and I will be honored over Pharaoh and all his army, so that the Egyptians may see that I am the Lord." And they did so, and word came to Pharaoh of the flight of the people, and the feeling of Pharaoh and of his servants about the people was changed, and they said, "Why have we let Israel go, so that they will do no more work for us?" So he had his war carriage made ready, and took his people with him. And he took 600 carriages, all the carriages of Egypt, and captains over all of them. And the Lord made the heart of Pharaoh hard, and he went after the children of Israel, for the children of Israel had gone out without fear. But the Egyptians went after them, all the horses and carriages of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them in their tents by the sea, by Pihachirot, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh came near, the children of Israel, lifting up their eyes, saw the Egyptians coming after them, and were full of fear. And their cry went up to God, and they said to Moshe, "Was there no resting place for the dead in Egypt, that you have taken us away to come to our death in the wasteland? Why have you taken us out of Egypt? Did we not say to you in Egypt, 'Let us be as we are, working for the Egyptians'? For it is better to be the servants of the Egyptians than to come to our death in the wasteland." But Moshe said, "Keep where you are and have no fear. Now you will see the salvation of the Lord, which he will give you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today you will never see again. The Lord will make war for you. You have only to keep quiet." And the Lord said to Moshe, "Why are you crying out to me? Give the children of Israel the order to go forward. And let your rod be lifted up and your hand stretched out over the sea, and it will be parted in two. And the children of Israel will go through on dry land. And I will make the heart of the Egyptians hard, and they will go in after them. And I will be honored over Pharaoh and over his army, his war carriages, and his horsemen. And the Egyptians will see that I am the Lord, when I get honor over Pharaoh and his war carriages and his horsemen." Then the angel of God, who had been before the tents of Israel, took his place at their back, and the pillar of cloud, moving back before them, came to rest at their back. And it came between the army of Egypt and the army of Israel, and there was a dark cloud between them, and they went on through the night. But the one army came no nearer to the other all the night. And when Moshe's hand was stretched out over the sea, the Lord, with a strong east wind, made the sea go back all night, and the waters were parted in two, and the sea became dry land. And the children of Israel went through the sea on dry land, and the waters were a wall on their right side and on their left. Then the Egyptians went after them into the middle of the sea, and Pharaoh's horses and his war carriages and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord, looking out on the armies of the Egyptians from the pillar of fire and cloud, sent trouble on the army of the Egyptians. and made the wheels of their war carriages stiff, so that they had hard work driving them. So the Egyptians said, "Let us go in flight from before the face of Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against the Egyptians." And the Lord said to Moshe, "Let your hand be stretched out over the sea, and the waters will come back again on the Egyptians, and on their war carriages, and on their horsemen." And when Moshe's hand was stretched out over the sea, at dawn the sea came flowing back, meeting the Egyptians in their flight. And the Lord sent destruction on the Egyptians in the middle of the sea. And the waters came back, covering the war carriages and the horsemen and all the army of Pharaoh which went after them into the middle of the sea. Not one of them was to be seen. But the children of Israel went through the sea walking on dry land, and the waters were a wall on their right side and on their left. So that day the Lord gave Israel salvation from the hands of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the sea's edge. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done against the Egyptians, and the fear of the Lord came on the people, and they had faith in the Lord and in his servant Moshe. Then Moshe and the children of Israel made this song to the Lord, and said, "I will make a song to the Lord, for he is lifted up in glory. The horse and the horsemen he has sent down into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my strong helper. He has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will give him praise, my father's God, and I will give him glory. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's war carriages and his army he has sent down into the sea. The best of his captains have gone down into the Red Sea. They were covered by the deep waters. Like a stone they went down under the waves. Full of glory, O Lord, is the power of your right hand. By your right hand those who came against you are broken. When you are lifted up in power, all those who come against you are crushed. When you send out your wrath, they are burned up like dry grass. By your breath the waves were massed together, the flowing waters were lifted up like a pillar, the deep waters became solid in the heart of the sea. Egypt said, "I will go after them, I will overtake, I will make division of their goods. My desire will have its way with them, my sword will be uncovered, my hand will send destruction on them." You sent your wind, and the sea came over them. They went down like lead into the great waters. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you in a holy glory, to be praised with fear doing wonders? When your right hand was stretched out, the mouth of the earth was open for them. In your mercy you went before the people whom you have made yours, guiding them in your strength to your holy place. Hearing of you, the peoples were shaking in fear. The people of Philistia were gripped with pain. The chiefs of Edom were troubled in the heart. The strong men of Moab were in the grip of fear. All the people of Canaan became like water. Fear and grief came on them. By the strength of your arm they were turned to stone. Until your people went over, O Lord, until the people went over whom you have made yours. You will take them in, planting them in the mountain of your heritage, the place, O Lord, where you have made your house, the holy place, O Lord, the building of your hands. The Lord is king forever and ever. For the horses of Pharaoh with his war carriages and his horsemen went into the sea, and the Lord sent the waters of the sea back over them. But the children of Israel went through the sea on dry land. And Miriam, the woman prophet, the sister of Aaron, took an instrument of music in her hand, and all the women went after her with music and dances. And Miriam, answering, said, "Make a song to the Lord, for he is lifted up in glory. The horse and the horsemen he has sent into the sea." So the beginning of the reading today is a little bit difficult, dealing with the death of the firstborn and just what kind of tragedy and suffering that entailed and what the situation was. And it's hard to sit with things like this. I know that, for an example, at the beginning of the Exodus story, God tells Pharaoh, "If you don't give me my firstborn, I'm going to take your firstborn," and then gives Pharaoh 9 chances before that actually takes place. You also have to remember that at the beginning of Exodus entirely, what Pharaoh does is he throws all the male children of the firstborns into the Nile. So there's this death of the firstborn happening from Pharaoh at the beginning, and then God gives him 9 chances to unite with Israel and let them go rather than be Israel's enemy before God. That doesn't make it any easier. I'm not going to say that it does, but I also don't think that it's irrational. If you want to have more conversation about that, hit me up. I like to talk about those kinds of things. But let's turn the direction a little bit towards the end of the story, because when Moses is leading the people through the sea and it's been parted, there's tons of things that coincide with Genesis 1. There's separating the waters from the waters. There's the pillar of cloud that creates light on one side and darkness on another. There's dry land in the middle. The people and the livestock go through on dry land, right? So they're filling the earth. And then there's fish in the ocean on either side, and there's just lots of creation imagery, and I think that's important because as we've just witnessed the decreation of Egypt and Egypt's culture because they weren't trying to unify with Yahweh and Yahweh's people, they weren't trying to get into a good relationship on those terms. They were decreated, and then now you see Yahweh taking his people through another creation moment. He's lifting them out of their bondage and lifting them into a position of his own. So there's just a lot to think about in some of these old stories, a lot to ponder over. And so I hope that you do today, as you have a wonderful day.